Hello and welcome to the video. This is a first look at these things here. These are the brand new Eachine EV300D goggles. Now they've very kindly sent me a pre-production unit, but this looks very final actually, so I have checked a few things with them. But these have been with me for a couple of days, not long enough for me to do a full review. I don't think it's right to try and do reviews on products you've had for a handful of days, but I thought it was worthwhile creating a little video here to kind of show you these and talk about my first impressions. Now on paper, the specs are very similar to a lot of the other high-end goggles that are coming out right now, and there are some really cute features on here. Things like the individual adjustment for focus, which we saw on the HDO2s a week or two ago, and the IPD adjustment. But this is kind of a super duper version of the EV200s that I looked at last time that I quite liked. So join me in this video. Let me show you how it comes in the box. I'll talk about the extra things that you get. With it being pre-production, there are a couple of things missing in the box that when checking with Eachine, they've told me that's going to be in there if you buy it for real. Now, when I started putting this video together earlier in the week, the listing on Banggood wasn't there, so I didn't know what price point these were going to be at. Luckily, it has been released, so I'll put a link down in the description, but you can see here that they are aggressively priced. So let me jump into the unboxing and go through the specs and talk about how I found them. So while I unbox this, let me run through the specs. You can see here available in, I guess that's supposed to be white, and also in black. And here are the specs on the back, but don't worry about trying to screen capture that and read them. I'll kind of run through what they are all in a minute as I take it out of the packaging. LCOS screens in this one, so not OLED, with a 1280 by 960 resolution. Field of view is 42 degrees, and the IPD adjustment on these is a good range, 56 to 72 millimeters, as well as having those individual focus pieces as well. Now the goggles, as you can see, come wrapped in this plastic. Again, don't take this as the final production version. I'm guessing that this is just a pre-prod unit because there are some things missing. That's the top strap there that goes over your head. The other strap is the main strap, which is the battery at the back. And in the top part of the case, we have the covers for the individual bays. If you want receivers with screens, you get a nice case. And in addition to these little pieces, as well as a cleaning cloth and a manual, you have the foam that needs to be attached to the goggles on the inside. So to continue the specs, we'll display in 4.3 and 16.9. I'll show you the menus in a minute, as well as some others that are kind of view modes where you can zoom in. You can change the adjustment between +3 and -8, a huge range. I have seen similar focusing systems to this on other goggles in my time, so it's interesting to see them again. I do like the numbers that do give you an idea where they should be in case they get bumped. These do support diopter lenses, so unlike the last set of goggles that I looked at, as well as having these advanced optics where you can individually focus for each eye, which actually makes more difference than you'd expect, there is the diopter support too. So if you have astigmatism or something like that, then these will still work for you. DC power input on this is between 2S and 6S LiPo, so pretty much any spare pack you've got, stick it in the back of the goggle strap, or stick it in your pocket with an extension, plug it in, and away you go. Underneath are all the usual connections you'd expect, including HDMI in, AV out, and it's a very clean looking set of goggles. DVR in here ones similar to the EV200s. They record at a higher resolution than the ones that you'll find in things like Fat Sharks. Does support 3D, has a built-in anti-fog fan, and those two dual diversity receivers are included on the outside. The other nice thing is that if you look at the way that the foam fits on, they have also included these wedges. This obviously seems to be the new thing with goggles. Make the goggles a little bit wider so that people with very wide brows can still wear them comfortably, and supply these little wedges that you can move and cut and take out if you need to. I find that with the wedges in the default position, it fits my face beautifully. In fact, it fits it really well indeed. So let me power these on and show you what the image looks like. So press the power button and it'll fire up, and it'll fire up the fan as well. I'll try and do my best to try and show you what these things look like. But you have a nice welcome screen, EV300D. The image is nice and clear, and then along the top we have the battery status, we have the individual pieces of reception for each of the 4 antennas, we have the frequency and band we're on, and hopefully you can see here that the panels do look very nice. But one thing I've noticed is they do have kind of an auto off function, so if you put them face down you will get that beeping that you could just hear. So I've put these straight out. Now pressing the menu button, which is you hold the left stick to the left hand side, you can scroll through all of the options and everything is beautifully laid out here. This feels like a very modern set of goggles. You have all the pieces for the DVR, for how the picture works, the screen ratios are in here, you have all the sound setup bits and pieces as well. It is beautifully laid out, very easy to navigate and very easy to pick and decide exactly how you want the goggles to work. One thing you might be noticing, and again it's difficult trying to take screenshots of how these things are, is that around the edge of the screen, even when it's at maximum image size, you might be able to see that there is like a very light border, and that is an artifact of the LCOS technology that's used in these, where rather than the image go to the edges, there is that gap around the edge of the image. So with all that covered, what do I think? Well, the really good stuff. First of all, the field of view is really good. I use a lot of on-screen displays, so having too big a field of view means I'm moving my eyes around the image to look at the number of satellites or the flight time or the battery. The field of view in these is really nice. The face fit is pretty good. With the things at the side, the little pieces of foam, it actually fits my face probably better than any other goggles I've tried, straight out the box without having to adjust anything. I'm guessing if you remove those pieces of foam, each of them are about 6 or 7 millimeters deep, so if you have a really wide brow they'd fit really well. Also, the bigger IPD and the individual focus on these knobs works really nicely too. So if you found previous goggles the IPD wasn't quite enough, or you also have a problem with your sight, as you probably saw in one of my other videos, I talked about the fact that in my sight one of my eyes is about 0.25 different from the other one, and individual focus makes a massive difference on that. But of course we have support for diopters here, so if you have astigmatism or something like that, then this potentially is still going to do the job, because standard diopters, the kind that you put in any goggles, will fit in these. The little bit of testing that I've done with the receivers in these is fine. The inbuilt receivers and things like the EV200s were pretty good as well. The display inside, we'll talk about that in a minute, the on-screen display. I wish you could turn that off, but you can't. But it is very clear, gives you a good idea of what RSSI you're getting from each of these modules. In summary, these are the best goggles from Eachine that I've tried to date. The EV100s I thought were meh, the EV200s I thought were pretty good, and these are very good. If I didn't have any other goggles, I'd be very happy using these on a daily basis. There are a couple of things that I would draw your attention to. The LCOS screens in here isn't as good as OLED. These are very modern LCOS modules in here. LCOS is a lot cheaper than OLED. I think it's about well under half the price for each of the modules, and the modules in here are the kind of pre-built ones, so that's probably slightly cheaper for Eachine to put these in, and less chance of potentially getting something out of whack. The challenge with LCOS, the technology, is that it has very tight tolerances, so if you do move something, or you get a really hard bang and the polarizing mirrors or something else gets a little bit out of whack, then the LCOS system will not work very well at all. You can see a very slight border around the screen, as you saw in the images. So rather than with an OLED, the image is right up to the edge of the border. You can, around the edges, just see very light grey border. In reality, that's not really that distracting, but coming from OLED, you will notice it. If you haven't used OLED goggles, it's very similar to what you get on other panels. The image itself I don't think is as pin sharp as on the Fat Sharks. It's definitely different optics, even though they look very, very similar. The way the array is set up doesn't make it, it kind of feels almost like you're looking down a tube. For me, the images are easy to focus on, but you have to have the goggles in exactly the right point with everything lined up for them to maintain their crisp focus right to the very edge. If you don't put the goggles on your face perfectly, or they move around slightly, there's kind of a very small sweet spot in the middle of each lens that lets you get the whole image, and I haven't found that with the HDO 2s. I personally wish that they had used SMA connectors for the antennas. I'm not a fan of RPSMA. I know lots of people quite like it, but the vast majority of pilots flying these days do use SMA. So for me, that is a bit of a heartbreaker, because I don't have lots and lots of antennas here that are in RPSMA. So it would be nice if for the final version they offered a variant that has that on it. And in the shipping versions, there will be an 18650 adapter battery pack, as well as the extension that goes into the actual goggles themselves. So you will get slightly more in the pack than I've got in this pre-production unit, and both those things would have made it a little bit easier to kind of set it up and do the playing with the bits and pieces here. Before I saw the price on these, I was a little bit worried that they might be too expensive, and the price would be about the same as a second-hand pair of something like Fat Shark HDOs, but it looks like they are going to be very aggressive on the price, and that's going to make them very attractive because they are a lot of goggle for that money and they work very well. It remains to be seen how the price will change once the Black Friday sales have finished, but let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that we continue to get good quality goggles like this for this kind of price point. Thanks for watching the video and watching right to the very end. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you like the video and like what I'm doing here, then hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon too. If you really like what I'm doing, you can go the extra mile and become one of my Patreons for access to me directly for support, and also giveaways and regular updates too. If you're looking for particular content, then check out the playlist. I organise all of my videos into playlists, so if you're looking for a particular topic, you can find everything here. If it's called Introduction To, it's designed to start very simply and build on that simple introduction to teach you all about it. If it's called For Beginners, then that is really aimed at people who are brand new to that part of the hobby. You can also search on YouTube for anything that you're interested in using the search function at the top. So iNav Painless 360 will find all of my videos and even the playlist around iNav. So thanks again for watching, and happy flying.